Hey guys, my name is Rebecca Eastep, and I have the pleasure and honor of coming to you to speak to you a little bit about fundraising for nonprofits. I was invited by my great friend and fellow rock star Jessica Key. So, a little bit about myself. I have over 15 years experience with nonprofits. I've helped with fundraising in several different aspects, from fundraising galas to letter campaigns to individual giving and corporate giving. It is very vital for the success and the sustainability of nonprofits to fundraise. So, today in my quick 5 minutes, I'd rather do this in person to where I could answer some questions and answers, but unfortunately, with our current level of pandemic going on, we will suffice with video. So, in my quick 5 minutes, I'm going to give you 5 helpful tips. And each of those tips I think will be helpful to get you an overview, a quick overview and summary of a good way of approaching fundraising with nonprofits. So the first tip is to know your mission. So know your mission. What is the mission of the nonprofit? This is something that I find to be somewhat of a cricket answer whenever I do my board of director trainings or do some staff trainings with nonprofits. A lot of times everybody knows the passion of what drives the nonprofit, but they cannot even tell me what their mission is. It's really, really important that you know and understand what that mission says and what it means. You're going to use that not only in all the work that you do within the nonprofit, but as you're out there trying to develop these fundraising efforts, genuine works a lot better than fake. And you knowing your mission and showing your mission and being that ambassador for the mission is very, very important for the success of any fundraiser. So know your mission. That's the first tip. The second tip is to activate and leverage your board of directors. Sometimes, especially with volunteer board of directors, they get in a very somewhat stagnant, quick propos, like just, we're going to go throughout the motions and that kind of thing. It's real important that you leverage that board of directors. And if you're a nonprofit that actually receives any federal or state funds, you have to be very, very careful about how you go about fundraising, because your time allocation may be 100% federally funded, and you may have restrictions that prevent you from doing certain fundraising aspects. This is where your board of directors can help alleviate that aspect. They can be the ambassadors out in the community, whether they're the socialites, whether they're the bankers, whether they're something to that extent. They may have connections that help you get those corporate sponsors or help you get the people to buy the tickets for the gala. So it takes a very, very strategic approach to get them activated, especially if they've not ever been very active before. But if you have a great leader, then you should be able to do that with your board of directors. That's a great resource that every nonprofit needs to leverage, is their board of directors. So activate that board of directors in the fundraising efforts. Form a very specific fundraising committee, and organize it that way. And that leads me to my next point, my next tip. Number 3, organize. So you need to be very strategic about how you're going to go about your fundraising efforts. You need to know your community, know your target audience, and know what direction you're wanting to go in. So if you're wanting to do a letter campaign, you're going to need to gather a lot of database information. You're going to need to strategically send out those letters, whether it's at the end of the year or during a certain holiday or during a certain time of year. It's very, very helpful to form a committee. And that committee can consist of board members. It can consist of other people from the community that just want to help with the fundraising efforts. The more heads you can get around the table, the more successful you are likely to be. So organize that effort. It's going to take agendas. It's going to take step-by-step directions. And somebody's going to have to do that effort. So make sure you're organized. And my fourth tip is to create a database. So if after you've initiated your fundraising efforts, you're going to come across where you are actually reaching out to a lot of folks. And when you interact with these folks, a common mistake that a lot of, especially smaller nonprofits, make is that they don't actually keep their information. And keeping that information can keep a donor involved, even if in a small way. So keeping them in your email database where they get the newsletter, or perhaps that letter campaign that I mentioned before, making sure that you have their basic information and you create a database. There are several out there for purchase, and I believe that there are a few that are free with a trial or something to that extent. It just depends on what your operating budget is and what resource you have as a nonprofit. But worst comes to worst, there's always Excel. Just create that spreadsheet and keep that data. It's important. And my last tip is to remain consistent. So once you've established your effort, once you've established and organized and let it be mission driven, activated your board, come up with your strategy, whether it's going to be a gala, whether it's going to be an annual gala, that creates that consistency. So if it's something that's on an annual basis, then your donors are going to know to anticipate when you're going to start reaching out. That's going to help to drive kind of your social media and your marketing aspect, which is, again, is very important in fundraising, to have that presence out in the community. So another way, again, helpful tip, that you can get your board activated is with that marketing, social media, that outreach, creating ambassadors in the community to know the mission that your nonprofit is representing. So that concludes all of my tips in a very summarized version. I hope that one day we can actually answer some questions for you. If there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. My email is Rebecca, REBECCA, Estep, ESTEP, 44 @gmail.com. Thank you guys. Good luck.